Hello, mamas, friends, expecting mamas, those of you who also serve mamas, thank you for spending time over here at Postpartum Together. I cannot emphasize enough how much I appreciate every time you choose to spend some of your time and energy in our conversations and in our topics and in the Postpartum Together space. So thank you, thank you. Welcome to our first video of 2021. So you made it. Whether you had a baby in 2020, whether you had a business in 2020, whether you are expecting and you're growing your family in 2021, I just want to welcome you, thank you, and congratulate you because we did it. And here we are moving into a new year with intention and values and continuing to work together to normalize the conversation of transitions after baby. So if you're new here at Postpartum Together, our goal is to bring light to, bring conversation to, bring safe spaces to the transitions in life after baby, and seriously, do postpartum together, because you are not made to be an island as a mom. You are not made to be a super mom, and we really have to work together to change the narrative, to build more support, and to make spaces for new mom life to be messy and beautiful at the same time. And that is what we really believe in and appreciate. Today we're going to be talking specifically, I'm actually going to open up a little bit and share about my experience in my relationship after baby and some of the things that really caught me off guard and some of the things that were really a struggle after having a baby. And I'm going into this specifically today because this week we're kicking off our next Back in the Sack e-course and group together, which is all things talking about reconnecting in your relationship, building your intimacy, and sex and connection after baby. This goes into the emotional changes, the mental changes, communicating your needs, finding space for that, really being an advocate and finding ways to connect with your partner. This is so important to me because of what I'm about to talk to you about, because of how shocking this was for me after having my first baby. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Chelsea, and I am the founder of Postpartum Together, and I had my first a little over 4 years ago. You'll probably hear him and my 2-year-old making a racket in the background somewhere, because this is how we roll. This is how we do. And so when I was pregnant with my first, I did so much prep for birth, and I did so much celebrating and connecting and really trying to honor my body in the pregnancy space. And I was very fortunate to have a birth that went very in line with what I had envisioned. And that was a very positive experience for me. And so what I came to realize, there were a number of things I didn't expect about life after baby. And I talk about those at different points through Postpartum Together, through the page and through these stories and through emails. But one thing that was very shocking to me was how much having a baby impacted my relationship, and the ways that it impacted my relationship, and the work that had to be done in order to preserve and grow my relationship after baby. And so what I really had in my head were 3 things. One, what I saw on social media, the pictures I saw on Instagram, the pictures I saw on Facebook, the kind of like happy, cozy, warm, our family's complete and everything's so blissful, that kind of feeling where I saw pictures and I just assumed like these people are more in love than ever, having a baby just brings you so close together, and da-da-da-da-da. And similarly, that's what I feel like we grew up seeing on movies and on TV. A couple would have a baby and it was just like really warm and cozy, and sometimes perhaps a show would be like, oh, but look, the baby woke up in the night and they had to figure that out. But it never really got into the nitty gritty. Those are my nitty gritties. They never got into the actual nitty gritty of how much things changed and how little sleep impacted the relationship, how lack of communication, how all the pressures from outside of the things that you have to do and take care of, how, being someone who is taking care of a baby all day makes you touched out and disconnected. Like, I never saw these things in the movies and in TV shows growing up. And so I really felt like I was comparing my relationship to what I saw on social media. what I saw in movies and TV shows, and then our relationship before, you know, the ways that we connected before, the things that made us feel fulfilled and close and intimate before, the patterns that we had of date nights or conversations or the things that we did together and the ways that we were able to be intimate. So when we had our first, I felt really shocked by a number of things. So the things I'm going to go through right now is kind of my personal internal struggles that I felt, and then the things that really felt like it was, you know, both of us and our relationship struggles. And then I'll share a little bit with you about back in the sack and why I created this for women, because I wish I would have had it. I really wish I would have had it. I think it would have saved a lot of tears and heartache and struggle. So after having my first, one of the things that impacted my connection with my partner was my body image. This was the things I was thinking about myself. This is the message I was internalizing about myself. Again, I had no problem celebrating my body and how it was changing and growing with my baby. But then afterwards, I felt like it had to like get to this certain place again. And as women specifically, we are taught that so much of our value, so much of our desirability is rooted into what we're able to give physically and with our body and our sex appeal to a partner. And so when your body literally feels foreign when touching it and feeling inside, like when everything felt so different, this was me like putting up a wall against my partner, because he never said anything negative about my body, but I was saying some things negative about my body, and I put up that wall because of my fear, because I wanted to create this disconnect, because I felt shame and I wasn't sure how to handle all the changes to my body and my body image. And along with that, something I didn't understand was how much internally things would shift, my pelvic floor, how sex would feel different, and I felt nervous. Oh my God. I felt nervous and I would kind of tense up, and I, you know, everything about me just felt like, oh, don't touch me. I'm nervous. I didn't know how to experience things. I didn't know how to take care of myself. I didn't know how to appreciate and honor a changed body. So this one, you know, created this obvious like sex disconnect, but more so even was just like I'm kind of drawing farther away and farther away and farther away. I'm building these blocks between us because I did not feel confident. I didn't feel in tune with myself. I didn't feel like I knew how to connect. Along with that, something else that was a big struggle for me was the mental fog and the overwhelm. And I felt like everything I was doing was to take care of this baby, take care of this baby, take care of this baby. I didn't have time to think about myself. I didn't have time to think about my partner, or, you know, I didn't make time because I was so focused on doing everything right as a mom and looking good as a mom and looking good in front of my parents, my in-laws, and my friends and social media. And I didn't really even prioritize taking a little brain space for myself and a little brain space for my partner. But that overwhelm, something else I realized is I also didn't communicate it. I didn't let other people in, again, because of some of that fear and that shame. So I didn't share that mental load with my partner in the ways that I did my second time and that we do now. I didn't, allow other people in to really help and serve our family, because again, I felt that shame and I felt like I had to perform a certain way, and that got in the way of our relationship. Along with that is the resentment that I felt. And it's not funny, but it is funny to think back to the amount of conversations I had in my head with my partner when he wasn't even there. He had no idea I had them. This was like the kind of, I was at home with the baby and I just had these conversations with my partner, and then I would get angry and resentful and put up these walls, and he wasn't even a part of them because we didn't know. And we'll talk about this in a minute. We didn't know how to communicate. We didn't have a set time to communicate. The ways we had communicated before weren't sustainable in this season. And again, this kind of like shame and guilt that I was dealing with meant that I was not easily opening up and communicating. the other thing, and this goes right along with that, was this fear of being wrong or not accepted. And so I was really guarded. I didn't get vulnerable. I didn't get intimate with friends. I mean, I wasn't vulnerable with friends or family, and I definitely wasn't with my partner because I wanted to look like, the good mom that was doing things right and was accepted. And so I made myself guarded. I created these disconnects. And when we talk about it now and in retrospect, I think in a lot of ways my partner did too, because everything was new for him. And because he felt, insecurities as well. And we weren't making space to learn together and to talk together and to really come together in our communication. So into that, kind of what were our shared struggles. One was that huge lack of time to communicate. One, because there is so much less time and less space. And two, because we didn't know how to in this new season. Like, we didn't know to set aside certain times to not talk about baby poop and sleep schedules, but to really talk about things that matter to us. We didn't have a lot of space to really connect in a vulnerable way and to connect with who we were as adults and as individuals, as husband and wife. Instead, so much of our communication was about baby. And a lot of that is normal, right? Like, you are going to talk a lot about your baby and taking care of your baby, but it almost felt more comfortable to do that because, again, entering this vulnerability of how much life had changed, of the body image and the overwhelm and the resentment and the fears and the shame that I had, to enter that into conversation just felt heavy, and I wasn't even sure how to do it in a new season. And this, again, came both ways. There was this lack of time to communicate. We did not build in purposeful communication, which is something that we do now and something that I teach a lot of my clients. We didn't know what was going on in each other's heads. And never did we, right? So, like, even pre-baby, we didn't know what was going on in each other's heads, but there was so much time and space to kind of make assumptions and have those conversations in our own minds. And there was not as much, like, communicating back and forth. So this, again, Back in the Sack, we really prioritize learning how and when to communicate and how to make these purposeful spaces for this. And we had a loss of things that we used to connect on, things that we would do, things that we would say, ways that we would spend our evenings. Like, this wasn't the same anymore. And there was a lot of lamenting what we had lost, but not a lot of figuring out how to build forward, how to build in these new routines into our change, which, again, we really talk about in Back in the Sack. How do we not just try to go back to the way things were, because that's impossible, but how do we step forward with new intention, new communication skills, new ways to connect, new ways to really prioritize our relationship. And so I hope that gives you a little insight on why I am so passionate and committed to this topic, even though it's hard to talk about sometimes, even though it is still taboo and there aren't a lot of spaces. I think it is so important for us, for couples, for you to have a space to learn about these changes, to acknowledge these changes, to process how these changes have impacted you, and then how that impacts your relationship. And then to take that to the next step and have action items you can take, conversations you can have, ways to start opening the doors again, and get more intentional and vulnerable and connected with your partner. In Back in the Sack, and again, so I took what were all the things I wish someone would have prepared me for? What are all the conversations that might have saved our relationship from some really dark times and some tears and some disconnect, and like talk of, are we going to make it? Because we had this point specifically after our first of, are we going to make it together? Because we felt like strangers. We didn't feel the same way that we did before. And there was so much priority on the baby, which, again, like, yes, we have to take care of our babies, but there was a lot of neglect on the relationship side. And I don't want that for you. If you have a partner you really love, and you want this to be a strong relationship, I really want you to have the tools and the resources and the conversations and the supports to salvage that, to keep it, to maintain it, but also to then grow it. My husband and I have been able to apply so many skills, so many intentions that, we came from a point of not knowing if we were going to make it to now, like, really feeling connected and thriving and in line with each other, and like we have processes and intentions and conversations and things that we work in to prioritize that. And that is such a game changer. That's what Back in the Sack helps to give you and identify for yourself and your partner in your relationship. So in Back in the Sack, we address the mental side, the emotional side, the changes that a baby brings, and we give you ways to first get to know yourself, to address and process through that, to connect with your partner, to ease into something that helps you feel confident and connected and continue to grow that relationship. And this is why I brought in experts from all different fields to speak into that. That's why I get personal and chat about things that a lot of people don't want to talk about, because these are the things that can kind of make or break our relationship. They can really be the things that help us to grow together or just kind of maintain. And I really want you to be on this grow together path because it's good for us, it's good for our relationship, and it's good for our kids, and it's good for the common good and the communities around us. So thank you for making a safe space for me to share parts of my story. And thank you for those of you who are continuing the conversation, who are making it normal to say, like, here are some of the struggles we have, but there are spaces to come together and to talk about it. And if you are someone who wants to have your relationship in this, like, trajecting upwards, growing, learning together, and really doing this for yourself in your relationship and your family, then Back in the Sack just might be for you, and I have a feeling it is. And we are starting on Wednesday, having a built-in community, having an e-course. So we have a self-paced e-course where you go through, you have small sections, there are conversation starters, there is a way to process out your own experience and your reflections and your thoughts. You can check in with just a few minutes a day, and then we have a small group to support you on that journey so that you can check in with other moms. You can have some conversation about it, and once a week we have a weekly group call to really go into this and to normalize the conversation, to get ideas, to talk about some of the things that have felt taboo and difficult to talk about. So if this is you, check out the link in bio. Back in the Sack, our group starts in just 2 days, and I know what it feels like to feel disconnected. And to kind of live in your own mind and to have this guilt and just not a lot of fulfilling feelings, and to not have that intimacy and connection in your relationship. And then I know what it is like to put a lot of intention in work, in skills, in practice into growing that. And I'm really thankful to say that now I know what it's like to be on this very tight-knit upward growth with one another in a way that intimacy and connection is not what it was before baby. And I'm so thankful, because it is this growth and evolution together, which is very empowering and very connecting and very wonderful. And that is what I hope that you can find and thrive in and experience as well. And if you want to do that together, I would be so honored to be able to use my story and use all the things that I've been able to learn and pick up along the way and help you to continue to grow in that way too. It would be my greatest honor to have the chance to help you develop that in your own life. So if you have questions, you can always reach out. You can check out the information in bio, and if it's not for you, totally fine. But I send you all the good, like, openness, communication, safety, and vulnerability, because those things really are life-changing.